So, but here's the challenge. And my wife often says this to me because sometimes I get into this because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a consultant and financial advisor to entrepreneurs. I'm surrounded constantly by a very small demographic, maybe 10 or 15 or 20% of the population that is actually entrepreneurial successful, not hobbyists, but actually successful at it. And she has to sometimes remind me that, because a lot of the things like what you and I are talking about make sense to us, but how many people, 80%, I don't know, I'm making up that number, but 80% of the world, maybe, that all they can handle is that job. And she's like, well, Chris, you just assume that everybody can think like you and wake up and say, there's a problem, let's come up with a creative way to solve it. No, they wake up saying, I got to pay a bill and that boss is going to pay me if I show up. I better not be late. And that's all the capacity they have to think. And she has to remind me that. And she was like, there's a reason you're good at what you're doing, because most people aren't. And you, if everybody was, you wouldn't be able to wipe the floor with everybody, because they'd all be on an equal playing field. And so she said, count your blessings that God gave you those gifts, and remind yourself that most don't. And so I always have to remind myself that.
Well, and I would say to that point, the whole point of my lesson is I got this young person who's just entering the job market, right? Typically they're 11th grader, 12th grader. And I'm like, look, no, you need to go there and say, I'm teaching myself how to work with other people. I'm teaching myself how to learn how to work that register. I'm teaching myself how to deal with different customers. I'm teaching myself how to learn how to manage. There's so many more things you can get out of that time spent at that job by just a check. Because what they do is they start to sound like middle-aged adults very quickly.
Jaded,
right?
Burned out.
And that kind of breaks my heart in a way, because it's like, you're a high school junior, you're now no longer doing high school activities because you got yourself a job that's filling in all your off time hours. Because when do they want you to work? Typically, it's on the weekends. When are a lot of our activities? On the weekends.
Right.
And or they'll start following into the pattern of what they see from other people, which is unfortunately, and look, when I was in the service, I used to use the same analogy. I would tell people in the service to not become a zombie, right? But if you don't act like a zombie, the other zombies are going to try to eat you, right? And so you would have to almost pretend to be a zombie, like in Zombieland, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And then every once in a while, you have to come out of character and double tap somebody real quick, and then get back into it. But I would tell them, like, look at all these kids on this high school campus that are just going through the motions every day.
Yeah.
They're not coming.